it is time for our first featured matchup of the day. And it's going to be dramiS going head-to-head against VengeurR. My name's Ketchup, joined by ZSX. But if you've watched any of these once or twice, you know that for the featured matchups, we're not going to be alone. It's time to bring in the DJ Wheat. We'll bring him in.
You trust it.
I'm not alone either, which is great. I'm great. Glad to be here with you guys. What's up, everyone? Excited to be here. What's up, chat? Saw some good games today. I was really impressed with Strong Sage's kind of debut outing here. So I'm hoping that our featured matches live up to what we've seen so far, but I think that we might as we get a little Maestro featurette here this week in week 4.
Every game, maybe except the Wrath of Khron series, which is good for another reason, has been intense. It could have gone pretty much either way throughout. So, you know, out of all of the seasons we've done, today's probably one of my best days so far, I think, in terms of games. And long may it continue. We've got 2 big series ahead of us now with dramiS, who had a stellar season last time against VengeurR, who himself started strong.
It's a great opportunity to just see the continuation of the story of everyone involved. That's why I love these. It's why it's hard to beat 1v1 esports, because it's just so much about that personal player's journey that we get to talk about dramiS as a player that has gone through various kinds of just competitive changes. You know, different levels of success, different levels of confidence. And then you have someone like VengeurR where, you know, there's just been that consistent level of just wonderful play. VengeurR wants to be the number 1, always, forever and always. May not always be number 1, but it's such a scary threat that every week counts, because if VengeurR goes down in one of these weeks, you know that's not going to be enough for VengeurR. VengeurR doesn't want that. He wants complete domination every single time we play. And dramiS, you know, already had to fight Maestro last week, and now has to do it again this week. Will things be different though, Wheat? What do we think?
I mean, I don't know. That's going to a lot be up to dramiS. I mean, as you said about VengeurR, he's aspiring to, you know, make it all to the top again. He's talked several times. We've heard him say, like, I want to win the championship this season. Of course, I think everyone would, but you know, dramiS taking that loss to Razy puts him at 1-1. He's a little bit lower in the rankings, 14, but still looked pretty good. I think it's a matter of just him finding his groove this season so far. Haven't quite seen him, but he's going to have 2 gobsmacker weeks in a row right now up against VengeurR, his teammate, who I would say is looking a little bit better than Razy right now in the kind of the current standings overall.
I don't really imagine dramiS is going to care too much about being sort of thrown into the deep end, as it were, because I think many of these players, you go into this being like, well, I mean, everyone has to fight anyone anyway, so regardless of whether you fight like X amount of killers week after week, you got to play him regardless. So whether it's consecutively or whether it's staggered, I don't think anyone really minds, because as long as you're in top form and you're feeling good about your play, it's just almost like an irrelevant talking point. We are going to bring up the picks and bans, and we'll find out who's picking what, as Blood Covenant's our first map here. High Octane, though, taking the Nyx out straight away, but it's going to be Athena going up against Slash, so that's going to be cool. Molten Falls after that, and a key removed. And then we have Ranger versus Strog. And then dramiS has gone in with something different, I think. It's the Death Knight on Ruins of Sarnath.
That is interesting. I mean, Blood Covenant is going to be really exciting. For one, you've got to play the Athena exceptionally well to beat out the Slash there. If VengeurR wins, I want to ask him around that, because I know the reason why, but it'd be interesting to hear him explain it. But you've got to play it extremely well to beat out the Slash, and we know how amazing dramiS is on a Slash anyway, so I'm sure everybody's looking forward to that. But positionally, decision-making with those grapples, everything has to be perfectly executed, and then you have to combine that with the rail, because we know dramiS is going to bring speed and aim. Molten Falls, pretty standard picks, I would say. You could have gone for the Galena, but instead favoring that mobility on the Ranger is a really important factor. And I love Ranger on Molten anyway. I think both major items lend themselves perfectly to both the orb and the passive, so it's really good. Whereas dramiS is always going to try and pick the strong if he can. And then, yeah, that's a really interesting pick, the Death Knight on Ruins. But both major items, you can cause a lot of chaos with that Flame Strike.
Yep.
If you're down in the heavy, like, you could just isolate it completely. Otherwise, you could almost shut out the Mega. Particularly if you're coming through T-Junction, you just can't even get in. So it's a really, you don't see it a lot, but it is very good if you play it smartly. And we know what the visor is. You get a lot of good utility with that piercing sight.
I feel like it's cool too because you're going up against a visor. So I think normally we'd be sitting here thinking, right, Death Knight, although might be a bit of a one-dimensional champion, what Death Knight can do is exceptionally strong for what you want it for, depending on the map. So yeah, denial, damage, a bit of space control, and on a map like Ruins, you quite rightly pointed out that it's not just the heavy that you can control quite well. It's going to be denial for both of those major items. Now, I think we'd normally be sitting here thinking, right, that's what Death Knight's going to be able to do, but Death Knight, what would the weakness be? Getting outmaneuvered, getting outsped. You're going up against a visor, so that's not going to be anywhere near as problematic. And I would say matchup-wise, if dramiS was going to be fighting against any champion with the Death Knight, I don't think he's going to be too down about having to fight visor. I think it's one of the better matchups he could have found himself fighting against.
And I think that's the thought process, right? If he's getting beaten up on the map because of the piercing sight, he's just going to say, all right, I'm going to sit down here, maybe by heavy, and say, all right, I'm not winning, but if you want to come fight me, I'm here. And it's just that threat. Every single time you're going to drop into a Flame Strike and just be obliterated, that kind of forces a little bit of a stalemate and just gives you security on one of the items at least.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting just to see if it is used more aggressively or it's used to sort of regain control. Setting up those traps sounds like a great idea, but versus a visor, right? Those plans can easily be thwarted. So that map 3 is certainly one I'm pretty interested in to see how this plays out.
Well, we're going to have to get through 2 other maps in the meantime, both of which are going to be exciting regardless, especially that Blood Covenant with 2 fast-paced champions and 2 fast-paced players. Now, on that note, though, ZSX, we're going to say goodbye to you for a series. We'll bring you back at the end, and obviously, you'll be joining Wheat.
You're going to get sucked into that thing above your head. Oh, there it is.
He's gone. I'm wondering if the stream actually heard that or whether we just did, whether that was just a little treat for you and me. But, all right, I'm actually going to drop a potentially tricky question. Predictions. How do you imagine this going?
So it's pretty interesting. I don't know if folks have caught it, but VengeurR and Aavik have been doing a little prediction show each week. And, I was kind of surprised because Aavik is like, yeah, I think you're going to win this one 2-1, but I'm not sure what map you're going to lose. And, I do feel like that's respect towards dramiS, right? And there was probably talk about it a little bit later if we get to interview either of them. But VengeurR knows that there's a couple of maps where he's kind of outside of his comfort zone. So if he wins those, I think he's got a 3-0 potential here. If he can't, I think that a 2-1, still kind of leaning towards VengeurR, but I do think that dramiS, I have to agree, Aavik's said the same thing, that dramiS can take a map.
I feel like I echo that a lot, and I think an extra talking point to factor in is there is I don't think unknown is the right word to use here, but there is definitely something that's an element of spice, and that is going to be that final map, purely because we have seen Death Knight used on Ruins of Sarnath before, but it's certainly not a common scenario. Now, that can always lend itself to being an unexpected map result. That could be something that just gives dramiS that extra little element that might allow him to maybe win that map, because you don't see it every day. So truly, how prepared could VengeurR actually be? Either way, we're going to be jumping into map 1. As I said, we have 2 maps to get through first before we even enter the ruins. So it's the battle of high octane, speed and maneuverability. VengeurR, we're going to be checking out first of all here with that Athena. dramiS, loves the crouch slide. Can't live without it. And a fantastic player he is. Is it going to be enough to compete with VengeurR? Because VengeurR on this map with Athena, I feel like it could make magic happen.
I completely agree, and right now VengeurR, the only one with a rail. And now will he be able to keep him away long enough? No, the answer is no. Now they're both rail equipped, and I think that's going to be the big decider right here. You know, 2 targets, pretty small, pretty fast, hard to hit, but rail I think is going to be the decider. Who's on with that rail, and what can they put together here? But in the first minute so far, there's been some trade, just damage trades here, but both players playing very, very respectfully of one another. VengeurR now kind of silently getting ready for an assault at the top. He tried that versus dramiS a couple of times, but didn't work out too good for him, as he did get tagged with that rail. But both of our major items are about equal times, just about 4 seconds between the two, and that's where I think things get real tricky, potentially for dramiS. I don't know. They're like 2 super fast champs in terms of the way the momentum can work here, so we'll have to see. But I think that could lead to control overall.
VengeurR's going to have to be rather specific with these rail placements right now, as being rather rail happy in the opening few seconds has left VengeurR with just 3 shots in the tank. So on the other side of that, dramiS not really having anywhere near the same level of issue, and getting that opening shot moves some of that armor right as VengeurR picks up that mega. So it's not a terrible start for dramiS here. We are going to need a little bit more rail ammo. It feels like with both of these players creating so much space between each other, it's going to be a rather standout weapon. VengeurR having to be very careful. The moment you pick up that rail, if dramiS is close enough, he's going to hear it. And I think VengeurR wants to make sure it's completely safe before he even tries it.
Yeah.
Mega's in play, heavy as well. dramiS, surprise! Oh, that was a surprise attack and a half.
I kind of feel that was a play out of Razy's book, actually, just slowing things down. But look at that. The rocket hits even after the frag, and dramiS not going to let up on this one. He did take that back full of LG damage, which resulted in the rail frag, but almost tied it right back up there. But VengeurR being very, very quiet, as you said, didn't want to give away any audio cues. And then, unfortunately, right, looking for his opponent might be, he hadn't seen him, he turned his back, he ate almost 110, almost 120 damage of unanswered LG, and then was easily dispatched with that rail. So, VengeurR's on the board right away, but it is certainly not over quite yet. And, ooh, a misfire up the jump pad, but he still manages to do it. VengeurR didn't get that mega. dramiS falls down, but the LG not enough. We're tied up 1-1.
Wow!
Whoa.
That was just VengeurR things, I think. Being able to just pull rails out like that. What could have been a rather dire situation. And that is going to be quite an extra factor that will always, always, always make players stand out from the rest. Now, dramiS has been able to secure a rail on hand. VengeurR relegated to the catacombs, but takes a rail and a second one as dramiS evens the score again. This is the kind of matchup I think we were expecting to see. You look at these 2 champions, and especially you look at the 2 players behind the wheel, they are just so execution heavy. dramiS known for that speed, the aim. I know that you have a crouch slider on a map like this, they can just zip around, and that's why the Athena can be used as an answer. Oh, but dramiS, he is ready for every angle so far. He's so confident that VengeurR is going to be around that corner, or be standing in that part of the map. He's ready to punish with a rail every single time. It's forcing VengeurR to be so careful, so reserved.
Yeah, his rail reaction's been pretty unreal, catch-up, as we saw there on that tying frag as well. And
wait, dramiS is currently sitting on 87% rail. He's hit 7 out of 8.
Okay, I mean, it feels that way based off of what we've seen. And nice rocket there by VengeurR, but huge stack for dramiS, so it's not going to do a ton for him. He's going to be able to recover back up from that one. But up the jump pad, and we knew that the rail was going to be big, but I think big equalizer for VengeurR has been LG. He's gotten a lot of damage in. If he follows up with rails off of that, it's almost guaranteed a frag if he gets a little bit of damage there. dramiS has done a little bit of the same, but VengeurR definitely using that in his arsenal. Now dramiS on the lower levels. It's going to drop his percentage just a little bit there, but that's bound to happen when you're that high. And we're halfway through it. It's tied 2-2. I'm not sure that a whole lot could have predicted exactly where we would be at this point in the game.
And I feel like it's hard to predict where we're going to go from here as well, Wheat. Because now Heavy, the next objective, one that's going to get taken here by VengeurR, and dramiS not making his presence known, so he's going to be conceding that. But look, he's got to be aware of how many rails he's hitting. If he continues to hit these shots, which unfortunately cannot do right there, does manage to return fire though. And VengeurR, weak. Too weak to be comfortable. dramiS knows he has that extra time to work with, so he takes his time to line that one up, and VengeurR once more relegated to the bottom of the map. However, let's not forget VengeurR, the king of playing on the back foot. We have had some amazing maps from VengeurR where he hasn't really cemented himself around too much. He wants to play in these unorthodox positions. He finds these weird shots and these weird situations where, kind of like now, he's been able to find an opening. dramiS, the roles are reversed, Wheat.
Yeah, I mean, dramiS's confidence in his rail is really impressive, especially considering this is VengeurR's server on this one. But I'm really impressed with that. I think even when he, it would have been about a minute ago, but he grabbed, it was fighting over by that Mega and still felt confident. But as he comes up right here, dancing between the pillars, unfortunately, confidence or not, he did land the shots, and VengeurR was very low, but he couldn't seal the deal on that one. VengeurR is going to take the lead finally, and I'm sure that he's feeling a little bit less pressured now, but still, you know, there's still very, very close gap between these two. Ooh, narrowly misses. That rail does hit with the second one after he fits up that Heavy. And what will VengeurR do to protect this one frag lead? And additionally, will that mean that dramiS just picks it up a little bit? Rocket does hit. Looking for another rail. That one hits. VengeurR now, no armor stack. Gonna pick up another 50, but in a danger zone there. Nice combo. Not enough to kill. You could see dramiS really, really zoning here. Look at that. Right past his view. And there is just about 2 minutes remaining. Catch up, and what a close matchup this first map is.
Now the Mega has been taken by VengeurR, but with no armor to back that up, and the accuracy of dramiS so far, VengeurR is going to be fully aware that that is not a safe situation at all. And it has been a slow scoring game, but it has not been a slow game by any stretch. The amount of caution both of these players are having to take. Loving these hook shot angles. You know, I know for some, can be seen as rather basic Athena stuff, but you never get tired of seeing it. And
yeah, I mean, between the two, we're getting a nice little show, right? Between the hooks and just between the movement that we're seeing come out from dramiS. It's a good one. Now, VengeurR on the lower level, once again, opening up with that LG, mostly from a defensive position. We'll pick up, get a little bit of stack, but as you've all seen through this map, one rail. And those vertical rails that we've seen coming out from dramiS are pretty dangerous. I'm sure that's one of the reasons why VengeurR decided, you know what, I don't need to be here. He gets down, slide around the corner, and the LG coming out a rail as well. Both players back down, less than a minute to go. Can he tie this up? dramiS looking for a kill. VengeurR just looking to hold on. And it's all going to come down to this.
VengeurR's defensive play has been rather impeccable so far. 35 seconds on the clock, but with one frag in the lead, it's a lead that VengeurR is eager to protect. And it's all about escaping too. I love that escape point right near the center of this map when he did that completely vertical hook shot, because dramiS would have had to rocket jump to chase it. You know, there's no other way that Slash was going to be able to cover it fast enough. Yeah, she can go horizontally fast, but she can't go vertically fast, and that's where Athena has that upper hand in this defensive play. Here comes dramiS, pushes in, but he isn't able to make anything happen, and that was just so cautious and careful. That final moment where VengeurR just created this absolute choke point. That was a really, really enjoyable first match. Even though it was only 6 frags in total, there was just so much care put into every step for both of those players.
Yeah, and I mentioned the LG a couple of times, but almost 700 damage from VengeurR that came from that LG. I mean, obviously the one where dramiS had his back turned, not a whole lot you could do about that. That was a great trap coming out by VengeurR, but as mentioned, he was using that, kind of chip away that initial health, try to get them within killable by rail, and it worked out quite well for him. So that extra 700 damage that he was able to stack up there really was a big difference there. Obviously, movement was on point. I dropped my pencil, sorry. Movement was on point. dramiS had some incredible rails there. And again, we talk a lot about potential, right? VengeurR clearly walking away, victor that one, up by 2. But dramiS looked really good in that first game. And now we're going to be moving on to Molten Falls, where we've got VengeurR on the Ranger versus dramiS on the Peak, or the Strog. Am I still here?
Yeah, that's totally my bad. I muted my microphone to clear my throat.
I was like,
and forgot to touch it.
My internet went down. Like, what is everything stopped?
No, don't worry. I'm on fire today. Apparently, it's been a disaster on my end. But I tell you what has been fantastic are these damn maps. They're what have been top notch. Now, what I was saying before I realized I was talking to myself and no one else was that I'm just as excited for Molten Falls. Like, just after seeing how Blood Covenant went there and how, I mean, I gotta say, the rail side of dramiS, although it did start to trickle down to the point where he was hitting about 50% rail rather than the, 80% or however it was back then. That's such an important weapon to have on this kind of map, but the creativity is gonna come out. Like, how is dramiS gonna position himself on this map? Does VengeurR have any creative plans, because he's got Ranger, right? And I'm not just talking about the orb, I'm talking about VengeurR. The use of the rocket jumps in a dual setting is something that VengeurR is almost, in Quake Champions, a bit of an innovator, because he's one of the only people that does, like, horizontal rocket jumps just to give himself speed, and he'll use a rocket jump just to get to that one bit faster. And Ranger can do all that because he takes less damage by doing so.
Yeah, and good map to kind of be doing that sort of thing. If you can surprise your opponent, maybe they're, on the top area waiting for a heavy attack right there. There's definitely opportunities for VengeurR to do that. Is that what we're going to see? Well, rail's going to come in big here yet again. Obviously, just overall control is going to be incredibly important, but I would not be surprised either to see VengeurR try to slow it down just a little bit and set up a trap if possible. dramiS, for him, kind of curious how Peaker's going to come into play here overall. So we're early on in this game, just having started and looking through the eyes of VengeurR, and already, again, slowing it down. And I like this. Like, we're seeing different shades of VengeurR here in the last couple weeks.
A major part of it is just sort of how Molten Falls has developed, how players approach it. VengeurR was the one that had the rail side spawn, and by doing so, the instant objective is keep the rail away from my opponent. dramiS has been unable to pick one up yet, and as we clearly saw on Blood Covenant, on a larger map with these two, the rail is such an important piece of the puzzle. VengeurR's ability to just take that away is going to make a lot of these fights a bit scarier for dramiS. Now VengeurR, oh, there's the Peaker, an impressive amount of damage from that Peaker as well. That's going to force VengeurR to back up a little bit. dramiS, this was a hard-earned heavy, and he'll happily take it off the back of that, but still no rail, which means that this fight is just so much harder for dramiS to take. He's only just been able to get a rail. If he had a rail in that fight, who knows what would have happened. But VengeurR, quite appropriately, kept it at arm's reach forever.
Yeah, instead of a frag, he's just going to need to be happy saying, well, I did get my hands on a rail, so I guess that's a little bit better, and did not lose anything in the process. But Very interesting. I was also surprised how much damage Peeker actually ended up doing there. Now, Venger from the top does get snagged on the way down. LG coming out. And opponents know exactly where one another are. But for some reason, it seems like dramiS, maybe it's just because he got his rail, but less opportunities, less chances overall that we've seen him fire. Now, Venger on the top once again. Next fight is definitely going to be at that heavy. And I think dramiS is going to go ahead and contest it here. 5 seconds left. dramiS thinking he's going to come in from the bottom. And actually, Venger's going to go ahead and give that one up.
Definitely sort of swapped positions here. dramiS's victory being that he was able to force his way into the heavy room just at the time. And actually, it is dramiS that's establishing full control, at least for now. But that control always lies in the balance when there's a dire orb that has something to say about it. And VengeurR keeping a hold of it. It's either going to be mobility or it's going to be just shred damage to remove the stack that dramiS has been working on. Now, we're going to continue the cycle for now. But if it's anything like what we saw on Blood Covenant, remember, VengeurR playing from behind is a speciality. You know, and I'm not even saying it like he's always behind. He plays like he is, even when he's in the lead sometimes. He is not afraid to concede the items, and yet will still find a way to take a frag lead on you or to nullify. It's not an absolute requirement for him, and he's very comfortable in this situation, as you can see. Calm and collected, as always.
Very calm and collected, and choosing these battles here. I mean, dramiS hit a lot of damage in that last exchange, decided he wasn't comfortable enough moving forward and applying any pressure. A little exchange there at the Mega as well as another rail is hit. Just taking a look at percentages right now. A rail for VengeurR. Hold on, there we get the orb coming up. LG damage. Peeker is going to come out on the way down. I feel like that was a pretty phenomenal decision coming out there for dramiS. He knew he was potentially at a point to get frag. He almost used Peeker to put space between himself and VengeurR, and that actually resulted in that first blood and first frag. And now VengeurR waiting for that Mega before he finally picks it up, but dramiS on the board, and I would say this puts him, you know, in a good spot. You mentioned that he was kind of had the reins on control. He's trying to keep that there. Wasn't able to get it as a result of that last frag, but VengeurR trying to play cool, calm, and collected. And oh, this is not good here for dramiS. Orb coming out yet again, and this time he will manage to get it. Same thing he tried before catch up, but this time it worked out for him.
Yeah, that opening rocket didn't really need to do damage. It just needed to confirm to VengeurR that dramiS was in fact down there. And the second he realized, that's when he put the pedal to the metal and went right in. dramiS. Oh, that combo though. The kamikaze from the Peeker straight into the rail. That two-piece that we rarely see, but when it happens, feels so good. Now 2-1, dramiS in the lead, narrow lead still, but this is the second map that has been high octane and fast paced, but there hasn't been a lot of frags. There's not been many opportunities to finish the job, you know. So it's how you can constantly stay on top. dramiS, that rail certainly does something to start it. And now with armor in play, dramiS can be a little bit braver as he pushes through, looking to try and take the second item. But the question is, where is VengeurR? dramiS can't find him.
Yeah, a little reminiscent of what we saw on map number 1. VengeurR playing hide and go seek a bit. Exchange of rails again. This has been a bit of a ping pong match in a way. Oh, orb came out. That puts dramiS in a terrible spot, but 2 HP. He still manages to land the rail. It will increase his frag lead by 2 now, and he gets himself the heavy on that one. Will pick up some bubbles. Is going to now not dash immediately into that Mega, which I think was a good. He slides on in and does manage to get that rail right there. And now dramiS can kind of try to keep that rail away from his opponent. And that's a good position to be in when, you know, there's less than 3.5 minutes left to go and you're up by 2. Still a lot can change here. Nothing is for certain. Orb does come out through the portal. A little misfire there with the rocket, but Peeker can't do the damage. Both players incredibly low, but neither wanting to commit to what might be a frag on either side. And dramiS holds on to his lead.
dramiS will just be happy that he got out of that exchange alive. It was very, very close to getting taken out there, and really changing that difference to 1 instead of 2. And that's more than enough for VengeurR to work with. Now, speaking of VengeurR, there's one of those famous rocket jumps, just how quickly he puts himself back into position. Wow. dramiS found a rocket there. Impressive stuff. Another rocket comes out, looking for a rail, but VengeurR's used the teleport. Oh, the read from dramiS! He knew! He knew! But where do we go from here?
Really, really impressed with dramiS here in this game. Oh, I thought he was going to hit that. He had him tracked. Unfortunately, no rail came out. A nice read yet again, and then the orb, but the direct rocket. dramiS hurt, but VengeurR hurt even more. He flips around the corner, and the rail is perfection on that one, and suddenly dramiS up by 3, and people are taking notes right now, Catch Up, because this is exactly the potential that we've been talking about with dramiS after that last season closer that he had. Great play. He's brought it now into the regular season. Yes, he did lose to Razy, but this is a clear showcase that he is here to improve and here to play.
Oh, and the rocket placement just makes it even better. dramiS sitting on a 5-1 lead. I gotta say, this is some of the scariest dramiS we have seen in some time. This Strog is looking next level. And he's just... I've lost count how many times dramiS has been in a situation which looks like VengeurR is just moments away from taking him out. Wow. Yet somehow he lives. And not only that, but can just mount a position that allows him to take more frags off the board. And just like that, now VengeurR forced to retreat. VengeurR is tender, licking the wounds, and we only have 1 minute 10 to go. So any time that VengeurR has to spend his time he doesn't want. And right now, dramiS is looking like he has this map in the bag. Dude, dramiS, what is going on, mate? This is pretty good.
I mean, that was definitely a nice frag. Great protection there of that heavy, but really it was that triple rail before that that I think sealed the deal here for dramiS. What I would say, of course, yes, his rails have been bonkers. Now bringing that lead up to 6 frags, 7-1. But even more impressive is dramiS's overall decision making. It has been on point. There's not a single moment in this matchup, Catch Up, where I have said, I'm not sure that was the greatest decision by dramiS, and that's hard to keep consistent throughout a 10-minute game period. But a lot of his choices here, when he's pressured, when he's not, when he's just waited, taking those mid and long-range shots with the rail, that was a really impressive victory here. I think if there was a map that VengeurR thought was going to be tough, it probably was this one. I don't know, but the fact that we're now 1-1 going to the third and final map as the decider, this is pretty great. I'm excited to be here for this one.
dramiS did just shy of 2,000 damage with just the rail, and he was sitting at 60% of it too. And you know, that's just one of the many reasons he was able to take that one as convincingly as he did. That was one hell of a map. And survivability. dramiS was just so comfortable the entire time that in so many of these instances where VengeurR had him what felt like dead to rights, all of a sudden, not only has he survived, but he's escaped. And in his escape has done enough damage to now make you in a weird situation that allows him to then push forward, get an item or two, get another frag. We're laughing happy days. Now it's going to bring us to 1-1. Okay, so those that did predict the 2-1, looks like you're right, guaranteed. The question is who's going to win it? And that opens up to this third map, because dramiS is looking comfortable. He's looking real good in terms of shape, right? Now this final map is a really weird one, because it's going to be Ruins of Sarnath, but Visor, not too unusual. But then the Death Knight from dramiS. This is not the first time we've seen Death Knight. We have seen Death Knight picked on this map before for various reasons, more obviously being just having that absolute nuke button when you're at one of the main items. But the Flame Strike itself, creating that kind of, trident of fire that can block off certain points. It can, you can use it at Mega and go across almost both of the bridges, if I'm not mistaken. It's great. But dramiS with this pick is in a pretty decent situation because he's going up against a champion that is A, a fellow medium, and B, not one that is going to exploit Death Knight's potential weaknesses. Death Knight has no mobility. Like, it's just not the kind of champion he's built to be. But to be honest, neither is Visor when you compare to crouch sliders, people with double jumps, whatever. Visor's just not one of those picks. So really, could this be an opportunity for dramiS to get a surprise win here, an element of slight unknown, and then it's a 2-1 victory? Like, that's a wonderful reality to have, but we're not there yet.
No, I mean, possible, obviously. I would say that what VengeurR needs here is that same rock-hard decision-making and the confidence in those decisions that dramiS had in Game 2. I feel like that was a big part of his victory there. So I don't think he can overthink the Death Knight. I think he just needs to play his game, obviously land his shots, but yes, he's gonna need to be careful, have some caution, especially when attacking any major item or in those areas. I could maybe see dramiS really trying to control that middle area, fire in the hallway, fire on top of the Mega. Both things can be pretty nasty, even if you're watching the rail too, right? So how will this one play out? I don't know. I'm also not convinced that dramiS is gonna, be able to use the Death Knight in the way that even we've mentioned, right? So much can happen here, and we are officially live. This time, eyes on VengeurR. He's not gonna pop vision right away. He's gonna wait about 10 seconds or so. He knows exactly where his opponent is, and it will pay off. Catch up. He easily lands that first rail of the game, and now probably sets himself up here for some pretty good positioning.
Going to be incredibly patient to start with, as it always is with these opening moments. No one wants to overextend too much unless there's a golden opportunity to do so. And dramiS, like, he knows what this matchup's going to be, right? And VengeurR springs the trap, and that's actually, like, really, really scary. Now dramiS, yeah, you have the heavy, but you don't have any other weapons that can compete. And that well-timed piercing sight means that VengeurR knows exactly where you've gone. And dramiS is trapped. He has been able to slip away temporarily, but is it going to be enough? The rail 1v1 dramiS. He sees the missed shot, and the read! Oh my
sick. God, that was like seeing into the future. Ketchup. He knew exactly what dramiS was going to do, and there comes even the panic flame strike. Like, I think that might be the wormhole into dramis's brain. If I was on the receiving end of that, I would be crippled. It would not feel great. That was absolutely sick from VengeurR, and I mentioned that he kind of needed one of those perfect games, no mistakes in his decision making, and the highest of confidence, and it's here. Like, VengeurR has what he needed. Maybe he's not very happy he dropped that map too, but that was glorious.
The Death Knight is going to be a lot more situational than the Visor on this kind of map. Like, yeah, you can really use the Flame Strike whenever you want, but there's a time and a place on a map like this, and in most cases, it's when you have an element of control and you're able to fortify a room. In this case, with the Mega being the next objective and dramiS, he's going to be confident to stay here because he knows that he has this area denial and actually a little bit of information of his own thanks to the flames ticking down. And actually, that did cause VengeurR to have to retreat, and it's allowed dramiS to pick up one of the two items. So there is an element at work. There is something dramiS can work with to maybe bring this back. but it's going to be a long road, I think.
It'll be a long road. That zoning is exactly what we were talking about in terms of trying to regain control. So dramiS, his head's still very much in this game, right? And so that's probably the difference between me and then any pro, aside from them just being awesome. But like, he is not tilting at all. This is a very, very solid play. Now Venger does pick up his 4th frag as a fortune one, great rail as well. But you can clearly tell that dramiS is not going to let off the foot off the gas at all on this one. Venger, though, man, he's playing like he's gone Super Saiyan in this one. He is he is at a power level that is pretty scary right now, and he's looking good here for map number 3. Does not want to drop a series to dramiS, but full control right now. The better stack. He is, I think, using his vision the way that he needs to be using it, especially when he's unsure exactly where dramiS might be. There you see it right there. He knows exactly where he is, obviously, but waiting for that mega, which is what he pretty much assumed. The pop rocket into the rail. He's going to be on fire, but in more ways than one, catch up, because he lands the frag, gets it 5-0, and we've got about 6 minutes left on the clock.
Whatever the theory was for Death Knight in this matchup, it just hasn't had a chance to work. And I'm not really talking about it as if it's like a pure champion thing. It's just Venger, and how he has played this matchup is almost flawless. He's done so much damage that the Flame Strike has not had a chance to equalize at all. He's been in a much better situation and position. The piercing sight has just made it a nightmare for dramiS, that just nowhere is safe, ever. Whether it's in the middle of a fight, whether it's fresh off spawn.
Well, that was like the first mistake I've seen Venger make right there. Trying to jump up that
5 minutes.
Yeah. Well, he's, he took a little bit of a beating there, but it didn't result in the frag, and that's good enough for him right now. 5 frag lead is pretty nice. Through the teleporter, knew exactly where his opponent was, but he is very, very low. Still manages to land that rail catch up. And I think dramiS knows that he is hurt. No flame strike. It's down. Can't really use that to his advantage. But Venger going to go ahead and be very confident in that. Pick up that mega and pops the vision. And he's just going to wait for it. Setting up a little trap of his own here. And we are getting to the halfway point. Great double rail as Oppressive comes out. And we have 4 minutes and 20 seconds left on the clock.
This is not the kind of champion that is able to mount these gigantic comebacks, though. That's one of the problems. dramiS, he's not going to have anything extra that's going to help him trap or surprise Venger. He's not going to have a double jump. He's not going to have a wall jump. He's not got anything that's going to make him faster, right? He's just got his own 2 legs. And in this situation, Venger just needs to play a very simple defensive game. And it should, in theory, be enough to stop dramiS from being able to really get anything going. dramiS has got to be close range to make it work. He's not going to be able to burst you down from far away, because at that range, Venger is going to be able to hit rails of his own, of which he has been doing a fantastic job of so far. And dramiS, actually, one of the main issues he's had, his rail has been non-existent, 22%. He's only done 180 damage with it. All the while, Venger has just been keeping dramiS on the end of a string and bullying him. And this is a hard final map for dramiS, no doubt.
Yeah, it's been tough, and like we said, DK on paper a lot of time looks better on paper than in execution. There hasn't been a whole lot, and frankly, Venger's kind of said, yeah, cool, I'm on fire, I'm still taking this fight. So it hasn't been as effective as a tool in the toolbox of dramiS as he would like. I also like this hit and run that we're consistently seeing Venger do over and over. There's another one. He knows about exactly where his opponent is all the time, peeks in, landing those rails, all unanswered damage. And what do you do against that, right? It kind of feels like your opponent is on your back all the time, and that in itself can be frustrating. But VengeurR has absolute map control. There is almost a complete split here in the time, so now he can just play ring around the rosy the entire time. There, Flame Strike comes out again, but again, it's pretty much a desperation Flame Strike, as he knew it wasn't going to kill, and VengeurR's going to allow the time to be split even more. Actually, some good damage coming out there by dramiS, but the vision finally popped, gives him a little bit of safety, does land that rail, hears him screaming a bit, and goes in for the kill. 7-0, 2 minutes remaining, and VengeurR is just taking this map by storm.
He's just played this matchup surgically. He's kept the Death Knight as far away as possible, where the one thing Death Knight can do in this matchup, he's not even at range to even try. And when dramiS has tried, it has been as a last-ditch effort. It's an act of desperation because he is running out of time. But whenever it happens, VengeurR has health to fall back on. So, yeah, I'm on fire, but let me just pick up this health and immediately put myself out. He has been so obnoxiously efficient at stopping this Death Knight from doing anything that I do feel for dramiS, because that last map that we saw from him was unbelievable. But VengeurR just went into this matchup knowing exactly what he needed to do, and there was just no opportunities for dramiS to work around it. Because for this to work, you have to be somewhat in charge. You have to be somewhat in control. They need to come to you. I almost get like fighting game vibes from a matchup like this, where I'm like, you got some big grappler, right, whose entire thing is, I need you to come to me, but if I have a giant life lead, then you kind of have to do it. You can't sit far away the whole time. But what happens when that doesn't work? You're just left having to constantly chase them around, and they have the tools to prevent you from doing that.
Yeah, I mean, VengeurR clearly had a game plan here against dramiS, and it executed flawlessly, all with that, you know, that beautiful rocket jump rail. dramiS thought he was getting away from that one, but VengeurR was saying it is not going to happen, and that was a real impressive finish by VengeurR in that game. Now, is he probably disappointed in dropping a map? I think he might be, and it might have been a little bit of that fuel for that third and final game, but let's bring ZSX back in and see what he thought of this matchup. 2-1 went to VengeurR. What are your thoughts?
ZSX, the buff ghost, back in town.
Welcome back, friend.
I thought it was really interesting. I think, you know, map one, I thought dramiS was almost unlucky not to win that. VengeurR played an incredibly good defensive game for most part and was very much on the back foot. Map 2 was just mind-blowing mechanical skill from dramiS. I actually felt VengeurR for the first 6 minutes played the better game, but every time he was trying to finish a frag, dramiS just hit incredible shots and ended up winning with 2 or 3 health, and it was just insane. And yeah, to your credit, I think that final map was VengeurR just limited any shenanigans. He just prevented any close combat play, and as you said, it was mostly panic like this, just trying to do anything in desperation to stay alive. In some degree, I felt dramiS could have tried to slow the tempo and play much slower and just use that utility, just sit on heavy and wait. But he was trying to play the game. He was trying to get out and do what dramiS does, which is create rail angles, and he was just not winning at that. He's was too reliant sometimes on speed champions. When you take that away, like we saw here, he feels a little bit more limited. So that's an area of his game. He's obviously incredible, but when you take the speed away, definitely no winner is effective. And if he can improve that, then suddenly he goes from being a top 6 to a top 3 player.
I'm sure there's a situation where that kind of matchup could work quite well, but you're going up against someone that has such an absolute out-of-this-world understanding of the game. They will look at that matchup and they will know exactly what they need to do to stop it from working. The moment that match began and VengeurR secured that very first frag, in my head, I'm thinking, I don't see the Death Knight working so well anymore now, because now VengeurR's the one in the lead. VengeurR has no reason to fall into
That's right.
what the Death Knight was supposed to do. And the second he got that early lead, it just undid whatever reasoning that champion was picked for. Which is a shame, you know, there's a reality where that goes the other way, and sometimes an element of surprise or unpredictability does work. But sometimes, unfortunately, in dramiS's case, it didn't. Off the second map, which was just so good from him as well, we have a lot to ask VengeurR, don't we? We have a lot to go over.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, not much you can do when your opponent's hitting 70% rail either, right? Like, dramiS is trying to play that game against somebody hitting twice as much as him, when, in hindsight, I'm sure he should have just sat on a heavy and said, let's just fight like this. Let's just not even play the rail game. But that's not dramiS's style.
Yeah, I mean, the rails were the reason why dramiS couldn't slow that game down a little bit, because VengeurR, you know, obviously having Piercing Sight beneficial, but it seemed like even when Piercing Sight was on cooldown, VengeurR knew exactly what dance dramiS was doing. He knew where he was all the time. He was lining up those rail shots beautifully, and the amount of damage that went unanswered was just astronomical. Especially near the end of that match. Once the major items got spread out enough where VengeurR could just run the board, I think at that point it was over. So already a tough climb for dramiS. Even tougher when you break both of his arms and are like, now go for it, because that's essentially what VengeurR did.
Yeah, it was a tough watch, but maps 1 and 2 were some of the best games we've seen across the board. So, you know, if dramiS can continue that momentum, I mean, he even beat Rafa last stage, if I remember rightly. He's just been on the upward. Consistently placing in that top 6 bracket. The question is, what does he have to do to get into the top 3? That's another step up.
I've overall been very happy with the games that we've seen today, because I think that talking point of a player that has showed up and sort of proven to everyone that they still have this absolute they have that spark still that will allow them to maybe one day be in that highest caliber Quake competition, you know, because everyone that's in Pro League is here for a reason, but there's clearly that absolute upper echelon of players in Pro League, and there are so many players on the cusp of that, and you know, dramiS is absolutely one of those players. Now, I have been told we have an interview lined up with VengeurR, and I'm pretty sure off the back of those maps we have quite a lot to ask. So first of all, VengeurR, congratulations.
Thank you.
Hard for victory, though, and I think we have a lot to cover in regards to that.
Yeah.
Map 2. What was going through your head sort of going up against a dramiS that feels like he can't die, he's always escaping at the last minute? It looked really frustrating, but what was going through your head in Map 2?
Well, I think I didn't play bad. I just got a bit unlucky with the execution. Like, I couldn't finish him off, and then he got his snowball because of that. I think also the fact that he was playing Piker like Shrug, it was like I could not finish my plays because he was like using Piker perfectly in some scenarios and just like leaving him with 5 HP, something like that. It's whatever. I think what I enjoyed the most was how I recovered from map 2 to map 3. Just shows that I have good mental right now. So.
Hey Marco.
Yo.
Looking good, my friend.
Thank you, man.
I know the answer to this, but I thought it was interesting when you told me before. Can you talk us through why you picked Athena and let Slash through on map 1?
Yeah, so, well, I was expecting him to ban Nyx, right? So I had either to pick Slash or Athena, first pick. And we all know that drami's best champion is Slash. But at the same time, I wanted to like show that I think that my Athena belongs like very top. So what's the best like way to defeat drami's Slash? Which is like also making me like go out of comfort zone, which I think is good if you want to win Quake on. You need to like be prepared to every situation. So I think it was just proving to myself that
Great answer. Actually, kind of took my question too, because I watched you and Avic's prediction show, and you mentioned exactly what you just said. Is that you think that in order to win to the championship, that you have to be able to get outside of your comfort zone. So my question was going to be, you know, clearly you were making that statement about the character or about champions, but is that also like maps and feeling comfortable on all of them and the various matchups as well? Like what does that mean to be outside of your comfort zone for you versus, you know, how you've been playing the last few seasons?
Well, I think like last few seasons, I always to ban always the same maps, like trying to avoid instead of learning more and improving. So I think this season I just want to be good at every map, so I don't have in a scenario of a best of 7, I don't have like maps where I think I'm bad. I just don't want that to happen. So I'm just getting ready for it, that scenario, and also trying to pick all the champions I can. Like I think I'm very, very good with almost all champions, so that's always a plus, in my opinion, if you have a good champion pool. And also, I just feel like I'll just need to adapt also to different play styles, so slow and people are rushing a bit more, you know, so just getting ready for everything.
Sorry, real quick follow-up, but if you had to choose one champ that you felt like you needed the most work on, who would that be?
VengeurR. No, I think my Visor has never been top tier. Like I always kind of watch, I don't know, Kilsen's Visor or Rafa's Visor, and they are very good with it, like when to use piercing sight. So I'm trying to pick it up a little bit more to like improve on that scenarios as well. So I mean, a lot of champions can be improved. I think it's really hard to like. It's really hard to get very good with every single champion. You need to put a lot of time into it. So if you can get a good level with every single champion, that also means that your enemies are like, no, when they have to ban a champion, they are thinking so much about it. I think it's very good.
Great. Well, congratulations.
How confident do you feel about your Visor now, though, off the back of that last map? Because it did look, you know, the awareness of when to pop it was working wonders.
Well, I also want to say that dramiS was not hitting as hard as it usually does. Like, for example, on map 2, it was hitting way more than map 3. So, but I think it was good. Like, I played around items, trying to not force, of course, close engagements, just using my shaft medium range. So I think it was very well played in that map. I'm just happy that I got away with the victory. dramiS is a very good player, so.
Well. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure to have you, and no doubt we'll be seeing you a million more times, as there's plenty more Quake to get through here. This just being week 4. But no, thank you very much, and we'll see you later, my friend. Because everyone at home, we have one more match to get through, and this one is going to be just Maestro Gauntlet. It's going to be Razy versus Zeniku. We're all looking forward to that one. Training partners, they've been playing together loads and loads and loads, but now the chips are down and it's time to play for realsies. We're going to go for a quick break. When we come back, our final matchup of the day will commence. See you in a bit.